Security Agency has tools to fake the identity of hackers, allowing the U.S. to break into computerized systems and leave somebody else's footprints behind, pinning the blame on other countries. So, if DARPA claims to be building a defense against fake news attacks against Americans, you can be sure that the fake news blitzkrieg will come, produced by DARPA, but credited to evil geniuses in Russia or China or maybe even Venezuela. I'm Glenn Ford, Black Agenda Report, and this is listener-sponsored, non-commercial WBAI, New York.
Welcome to WBAI 99.5 FM in the morning. This is Waking Up. I'm Juliana Forlano. In the studio with me,
King Downing. Good morning. Good morning.
Goodness, we have so many things to discuss. We're just basically discussing a number of things. Plus, we have a couple of clips for you. Hightower Report, Robert Reich. Got labor history in too. And we also have a piece from Celeste Katz, all that. And we're going to be taking your listener calls. Should be good. Stay tuned. Good morning, everyone. It is 57 degrees outside right now, so long sleeves, but it's going up to 81, so short sleeves. It's very confusing on how to dress. Gonna say. It's mostly sunny outside. High 81. That is today. Tomorrow, high 85. Sunny day. Great day for the beach if they weren't closed. Sunday, again, same deal. Plentiful sunshine, 85 degrees. It's looking like a hot summer weekend in the fall. So there's that. At least we're not in Texas. If you're listening from up here, a lot of flooding. We reported 28 inches. It was 41 inches when I looked of rain in their states of emergency declared, and it's not great. What can I say? Climate disruption is upon us, as is the big story. We've got King has in his hands. What was that thing? Show that thing. The letter from Adam Schiff.
Yeah, so...
We would be remiss if we did not cover this story here on Waking Up.
Yeah, so things are really heating up in D.C. It looks like we're headed towards another showdown,
Ooh.
Even in the midst of the climate showdown.
Right. By the way, today at 12 o'clock is the climate strike for climate. You can go to Foley Square today if you want to participate here in New York City, or you can go to Climate Strike on the internets and find out where, because it's happening all over the place.
Yeah, and the city has authorized the New York City school students to walk out. They have permission to walk out.
I mean,
so
that could
be
how
something.
many city school students are there, I wonder?
I think there are 1 million.
Well, there you have it.
That
could be
big.
a lot. Although
could be
CUNY
big.
wouldn't let their students out. They said if their schedule allows. But it's Friday, and a lot of CUNY schools don't have actual class on that day. Anyway, but back to Washington. So this complaint, in case you didn't hear about this yesterday, this complaint by a whistleblower in the intelligence community said to involve President Trump was related to a series of action that go beyond any single discussion with a foreign leader, and this is according to interviews on Thursday. This complaint was related to multiple acts. Michael Atchison, the Inspector General for American Spy Agencies, told lawmakers during a private briefing. Two officials familiar with this is what they said. Everyone's kind of behind closed doors here. But Atchison declined to discuss the specific. Oh, excuse me. No, the person from the official who was familiar with what's going on declined to discuss specifics, including whether the complaint involved the president, according to committee members. Separately, a person familiar with the whistleblower's complaint said it involves, in part, a commitment that Donald Trump made in communication with another world leader. A commitment to a world leader. Is this not treason?
It could be.
You're the lawyer. Isn't that the definition of treason, depending on what the agreement is?
Yeah, and there's another level of treason, too, and that is that if the Inspector General looks over this complaint, which is done by a former intelligence official, even though it was wrongly attributed to one agency or another, if they determine that this involves an urgent matter, it's supposed to be turned over to the Intelligence Committee right away. And the IG consulted with the Director of National Intelligence, McGuire, who decided not to release it after discussing it with the Department of Justice. And so the issue is, was Barr involved in this decision when McGuire says he's not going to turn it over, as he was required to do by law within 14 days after determination that it was an urgent matter.
Has it been 14 days?
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
yeah,
it has been 14
that's what Schiff's letter to McGuire says that, under the statute, once it was determined that it was an urgent matter, that it was supposed to be turned over to them within 14 days.
Wow. So what could this urgent matter be? We could speculate all afternoon and all day, but this is, having come off the anniversary of 9/11 last week. I mean, there was a lot of ignoring of documents and memos that went on before we were attacked by the Bush administration. I wonder, what could they be talking about? Speculation, anyone?
Maybe there's more than one of these.
Anyway, there's a giant standoff here, as King has said, and Democrats said that, have been accusing Trump and his administration of orchestrating a cover-up of that urgent and legitimate whistleblower complaint. And Schiff, as you said, King, he's the Democrat from California and the chairman of the House Intelligence Committee, which is why we're seeing him all over, told reporters after the briefing that he still did not know the contents of the complaint. He's been unable to get answers. What do we do now? What do we do?
Well, we have to keep pressing on all fronts, between the disclosure of the tax forms, any kind of collusion with Russia, which is where I think it really starts, any collusion with Russia. All of these things have to be pressed forward and put into one bundle so that everyone makes all the demands and not just impeachment versus something else.
Well, Trump has filed a lawsuit to block subpoenas issued by our very own New York District Attorney for the president's his tax returns. We knew that was going to come, of course. So I guess we'll see. Our phone lines are open. You can call in and make a comment on any of the things we're talking about today. We're going to do open phones all day long. 212-209-2877. 212-209-2877. And now we're going to our labor history in 2.
I'm Rick Smith, and this is Labor History in 2. On this day in labor history, the year was 1981. More than 400,000 union members marched in Labor Day's first Solidarity Day demonstration in Washington, D.C. The demonstration was called by the AFL-CIO to protest the Reagan administration's policies and the firing of striking air traffic controllers. At the beginning of August, nearly 13,000 air traffic controllers had walked out after talks with the Federal Aviation Administration collapsed. At least 7,000 flights were canceled on that day. The Professional Air Traffic Controllers Organization wanted an annual wage increase and a reduction in work hours. The FAA counteroffer fell far short of what the union wanted. Reagan declared the strike was illegal and eventually fired every striking PATCO worker. President Reagan even went as far as to impose lifetime bans on rehiring any of these workers. The union was decertified in October of 1981. PATCO was just the beginning. Reagan's policies were definitely anti-union. He put union foes in control of the very agencies that were designed to protect and further the rights and interests of workers. He named Donald Dotson the chairman of the National Labor Relations Board. The NLRB oversees union representation elections and labor management bargaining. Dotson let his opinions on unions known when he said that unionized labor relations have been the major contributors to the decline and failure of once healthy industries and have caused destruction of individual freedom. Under Dotson, the board abandoned its purpose to promote collective bargaining. The NLRB settled only about half as many complaints of employers' illegal actions as the board during the Carter administration. Those that were settled upheld employers in 3/4 of the cases. The Reagan-era anti-union policies and attacks on workers have had serious repercussions that workers are still suffering from to this day.
And that was Labor History in 2. You're listening to Waking Up. I'm Juliana Forlano. I notice our phone lines are lighting up. We're going to get to you in just a minute. I do also thinking, I wanted to bring this up with you, and hopefully we'll get to hear what our callers have to say. There's a drumbeat for war going on, too, quietly or loudly. It's a major news story, obviously, right now. Trump has said he's not sure. He's waiting for Saudi Arabia to tell us whether we should go to war or not. That seems a little bit treasonous as well, if I can use that word in an unofficial manner. I think we should be deciding whether we want that or not, and whether it's appropriate or not. I know everyone probably listening here would be like, no, obviously. But, there's a lot of the tax stuff that's coming up, and this is what's been predicted by people who have been keeping an eye on this, is, the closer we get to really finding out what's going on in the Trump administration, the closer we seem to be getting to a war. I think, didn't he even say that Obama was going to go to war because he needed to get reelected? So Trump has in mind that you use war as a tool for politics. I'm sure he's not the first elected that has this, but it's playing out right in front of our eyes right now, and I'm finding it, I don't like it when people can obviously just predict exactly what's going on. Oh, if he is close to impeachment, if we are very close to finding out what's been happening behind the scenes, what with the taxes or the collusion with foreign leaders, war is his threat. You're just looking at me too.
Oh, I'm waiting.
Like, right.
I'm waiting. No,
I'm with you.
You're done. No, first of all, I think it's not as much a push for war as it is a push for military spending, because all of the saber rattling allows them to put in a lot more orders for bombs, planes, and everything, whether it gets used or not. Yeah, it's just
exactly.
Cash rules everything around me. So
we've got some callers calling in here on WBAI 99.5 FM. Waking up, caller, you are on the line. Your name and where are you calling from?
I think I was patched on air a long time back.
Hi.
And so I wasn't sure that I was getting through. Well, come on, Wall Street, don't be slow. Man, this is war or go-go. I actually dialed in back when you were talking about the 9/11, but maybe if that's off topic, I'll
go ahead. Do what you want.
Oh,
Make it
I
count.
I have a quite functional conspiracy theory for that one.
Go ahead.
It
Friday.
doesn't require that many people to conspire.
Who is this, by the way? I noticed you breathing very closely into the phone.
I'm sorry. My name's Joe.
Hi, Joe.
But anyway, my theory is that Mr. President, we have warnings that or whomever, Mr. Vice President, I think in his case, Mr. Vice President, we have some intimations that they may be planning some big operation. Oh, okay. Well, you know what? If we tell, FBI and CIA to get their thumbs out and actually cooperate, of course we'll be able to stop them. But you know what? I think we should proceed in the normal way. And then if they do something, we'll catch them, mid-operation. Mr. Vice President, they knocked down a building. Oops. See what I'm saying?
I see what you're saying.
That's the minimum conspiracy theory. There's far more you could go for if you go dig in the dirt.
I mean, even if you don't have a conspiracy theory, ignorance and ignoring memos is enough. I don't want to redo what happened in the Bush administration because we're living through it again right now. But at least this time we're saying, look, we have a whistleblower who is saying there's important things going on, and we need. I mean, this is not a time and an administration to come out as a whistleblower. It is, and thank God, and we need these people. But it's not a safe time. This is,
right.
Look what they're doing to the other whistleblowers. It's insane. Thanks for the call, Joe. I appreciate it. We have some other callers coming in. Caller, your name and where you're calling from. You're on the air. Hello, are you there?
Hello.
Hi, you're on the air. Who's this?
Hi, James from the Bronx.
Hey, James. What would you like to say?
Am I on the air?
You are.
Okay. I just want to say that the Congress needs to construct a policy for non-politicians, and Trump is a non-politician.
What do you mean? Well, obviously, but what do you mean? What kind of policy?
A policy where there's to review Trump's operation while he was president, and to be able to lay down policies saying that a non-politician like Trump cannot do this, that, or the other, cannot get away with certain things,
They have policies. He is flouting them. He's not. They have these policies. We're just not. Applying the law, and that is a problem. And that's why I think the Democrats have to do a formal impeachment, not like they're stepped back right now doing an investigation that could possibly lead to impeachment. Like, come on, Nancy, grow a set and just say we're doing an impeachment because it's absolutely necessary for the safety of our nation. Thanks for the call, Joe. I appreciate it. Other callers are calling in. Caller, you are on the air. Your name and where you're calling from.
What's going on? Good morning.
Hi, who's this?
Hey, you said it was going to be in the 50s, and then it's going up to the 80s on a full day.
Yeah.
Today's still summer.
Oh, well, thanks for calling in with that nitpicking. I appreciate it. Not. Yeah, you're right. It is still summer. But still,
and
it's
maybe
September.
if you get a chance, have Patrick Moore maybe as a guest on your show.
Who's that guy?
All right, take it easy.
Wait, who is that guy? All right, if you're drunk, don't call in. I'm just saying. Okay, King's going to Google who Patrick Moore is. 212-209-2877. I hesitate to give out the number. You're listening to WBAI. This is Waking Up. I'm Juliana Forlano. Pretty soon it's going to be fall, like tomorrow on the 21st, I believe, is when it turns to fall. I don't understand why that would be an important thing to call about when the world is burning and falling down. We're going to take a musical break, and we'll be right back. Thanks for listening.
Put it there, boy, and we'll show these fascists what a couple of hillbillies can do.
Thanks for taking my call, and thanks for C-SPAN. I really appreciate it. Our president and our beautiful first lady, they went down to El Paso, Texas, and they posed with a baby that the president's rhetoric, Fox News rhetoric, your rhetoric, had helped to orphan. And I think this thing about Trump is making America great again. Trump has made America hate again. And it's this hatred of races. I hear it all the time when I talk to Republicans, and they say, oh, I went down to Texas, and there are all these Mexicans down there, and they're all speaking Spanish. Well, I got news for you. Those weren't Mexicans. Those were the Americans. That guy that went down to El Paso to shoot a bunch of Mexicans, he shot a bunch of Americans. And I'm really tired of this anti-immigrant, anti-people with brown skin rhetoric that's coming out of Fox News, coming out of people like you, and coming out of our president. It's demeaning. It's beneath the office. It's beneath you. You used to be a judge. You know better. It's time that stopped.
I hope that song is right. Woody, all you fascists bound to lose, you're listening to Waking Up on WBAI with Juliana and King. We have callers on the line. Caller, your name and where you're calling from. You are on the air. Hello, who's this? Hi, who is this?
Hey, this is Patty from New Jersey. How you doing?
Hi, good. How are you doing? You're the vegan, right?
I'm a vegan.
Are you?
When I only eat a vegetable dish, yes.
Oh, I was confusing you with another caller that we have. Okay, go ahead.
So I just want to thank you for your vibrance and your beauty. And
thank you.
I also want to remark that, I think part of Nancy Pelosi's dragging of feet, people are like, oh, she's so strategic, is, it's like there are so many things that Trump could be investigated on that I think would open a can of worms for all of the other people who are in Congress and holding office who have conflicts of interest. I mean, we look at the emoluments clause. So people are like, someone else is doing it. And, like, in a lot of ways, it's like, yeah, that is true. I mean, just let's think of Hillary Clinton, Bill Clinton, the Clinton Foundation. They had this nonprofit which they basically used to funnel money, for political purposes, to show preference, to have push legislation that benefited certain sectors or certain countries, right? And you can also see that with Brett Kavanaugh right now. Everyone's talking about sexual assault again, but it's like, this is the guy, the George W. Bush White House, who presided over the torture program. And when there was going to be his vetting, the Republicans sealed almost every document from the White House. It's like, why aren't people crying out about that? Why aren't the Democrats going, ape about that?
That's a great question, Patty. I appreciate it, and I think it comes back to something that I experienced. If I may make a comment on the way in here today, I was listening to morning radio, and they were just jibber jabbering about baloney. I don't think people are paying attention. People are out there shopping. I'm not saying don't watch sports, but also follow politics, please. People just are not paying attention. And they've, the powers that be have done a great job distracting everybody with shiny objects. Madison Avenue has done a wonderful job making you try to run after your self-worth based on the latest diet and the latest pants and the latest clothes and the latest whatever and getting laid and whatever. Can you say that? Yeah, you can. And I just think, it's genius if you want people not participating in a democracy. Patty, thanks for the call. Very well thought out. Appreciate it. Other callers calling in, 212-209-2877. We'll take one more call, and then we have a segment from Celeste Katz from Driving Forces. It's going to be on right in a little bit. Caller, your name and where you're calling from.
Good morning, Mr. Downing and Cousin Juliana. This is Eurythmic Bob from Brooklyn.
Hey, Eurythmic Bob. How are you?
And I'm in a New York state of mind. I want to talk about climate change, if I may. I'm not sure if I can take it seriously. I'll tell you why. The most progressive areas in the country are what? The big cities, where usually the Democrats are in control. We have a fairly liberal mayor here. We have a rather liberal city council. And the Democrats, we have a Democratic governor, and they're in control of both the state Senate and the state assembly. And yet in Brooklyn here, the big cities are the biggest polluters, it seems like. The traffic is choking in Brooklyn. I'm a bicyclist. I mean, it is just impossible between the Uber cars and the Lyft and just traffic in general. And my main point is this. This is before your time. Between 1936 and 1960, we had electric buses in Brooklyn run by the Transit Authority. They were called trolley buses. They did not run on batteries. They had overhead electric cables. But there were no tracks. They were not trolleys. They were buses. Now, why the city abandoned these? They were not all over Brooklyn. They were in certain neighborhoods and a little bit in the Bronx. So the MTA came out with these new buses a few years ago, these extra long buses with the accordion. And it's more and more buses and buses. And why we cannot have these electric buses, you can see them like on Wikipedia. For about 24 years or so, we had them in Brooklyn. I remember them. I rode on. I saw them anyway in 1960.
Well, Bob, the question is, the electricity is generated by what? If it's burning coal, it doesn't really do any. It might clear up your bike ride, but it doesn't really overall. If we're thinking about the Earth as a whole system, it doesn't do any real positive. It just kind of not in my backyard's the pollution.
Well, there's ways of generating electricity. You don't have to necessarily use coal or oil.
Yeah, let's do it clean. If we generate electricity clean, I'm with you.
Even if you have to use some oil, it's still the air pollution, the greenhouse gases, the carbon dioxide in Brooklyn is choking. But why would you not use electric buses?
Well,
we had them. They were clean and they were quiet.
Eurythmic Bob, that's you brought up a great piece of history that's been largely ignored. And that is that it was the influence of the automobile industry and the gasoline lobby that leaned on everybody from the local cities to the federal government, which made transportation money available, and it brought in these buses and pushed out the others. And there was
I understand, but we have a progressive city council and a somewhat progressive mayor now, and they do nothing.
I don't think anyone's pushing them to do anything about the buses. I think people still see buses. Oh, it's public transportation. So, that, I don't know. We're going to have to look at it. I think they are doing some clean city buses. I've seen something like that.
They've switched to liquid natural gas. But the infrastructure that it would take to wire the entire city for electricity now would be enormous. And it might be something worth doing, but it would be a huge outlay to wire all of these bus lines right now.
I say we bring back those guys with the nice legs who, the bicycle and you sit in the back. I always dream of a city
with the nice legs.
What are those guys called? Well, yeah, because doing that job.
I think they're called
real muscular
I think
legs.
they're called Chippendale dancers.
Did I just sexually harass the? I'm sorry. I know all of you listeners know exactly what I'm talking about. They have them in other countries. But what are they called? Do you know?
Here they call them pedicabs.
Pedicab. That's good.
But in an
I mean,
earlier,
nice strong legs. What's the problem with that?
in an earlier exploitative time in China, they were rickshaw drivers, and they were badly exploited.
Yes, well, we wouldn't do that, of
No,
course.
we wouldn't do
Obviously, no one gets exploited here in New York City. You're listening to Waking Up. I'm Juliana Forlano. Good call, Bob. I appreciate it. You know, another point that goes along with what was just said is the fact that the Trump administration wants to, is what they're doing in California. They want to, you know, outlaw California or overturn California's ability to make their own laws and set their own pollution standards and set their own emission standards for vehicles. And so there's a lot going on here. So, you know, as we look at the national political scene, there are a few names, by the way, more legendary than Kennedy. We're kind of segueing here, but a young Kennedy's decision to run for the Senate is raising some hackles among Massachusetts Democrats right now. We are lucky to have WBAI correspondent Celeste Katz reporting for us from Boston. Here she is.
His grandfather was a senator. His granduncles were senators. For Massachusetts Congressman Joseph Kennedy III, being in the United States Senate really does run in the family. But whether it's despite of or because of his famous name, Kennedy's decision to take on sitting Senator Ed Markey in a primary has some Democratic Party officials worried. They say he may be putting personal ambition ahead of the big picture in 2020, pushing Donald Trump out of the Oval Office. In an exclusive talk with WBAI, Deborah Kozakowski, the vice chairwoman of the Massachusetts Democrats, said she's disappointed by Kennedy's move. She feels his battle against Markey could mean big money and a potential distraction from the war for the White House.
I'm deeply disappointed. I really am. Democrats wake up every single day across this nation thinking about how they can defeat Donald Trump, worrying about holding on to the House, hoping to flip a few Senate seats. The most important thing to do in this cycle is to elect more Democrats. This isn't electing more Democrats. It's simply electing another Democrat. Democrats do battle with the specter of Donald Trump being reelected, holding on to the House, maybe even flipping a couple of U.S. Senate seats.
While it doesn't quite look like a slam dunk, at least this far away from the election, a Boston Globe Suffolk University poll showed Kennedy leading Markey by 9 points. Some analysts have framed Kennedy's reportedly imminent Senate campaign as a generational thing. Kennedy's 38. He became a member of Congress in 2013. Markey, on the other hand, is 73. While he was elected to the Senate only 6 years ago, he spent 37 years in Congress before that and previously served in the Massachusetts legislature. The 2018 midterms brought a lot of attention to young candidates, including those who bucked their parties and campaigned against sitting lawmakers. That could lend some interest to Kennedy's challenge to Markey. But Kozakowski points out that one of the biggest stars of the midterms has already picked a candidate for Senate in Massachusetts. And it's not Joe Kennedy.
One of the newest congresswomen, the congresswoman from New York, Congresswoman Ocasio-Cortez, has endorsed Ed Markey. She is about change, and yet she sees the value in hanging on to a first-term senator who sees things the way other generations sees things, and he's felt that way for a long time. In many ways, Ed Markey was ahead of his time. So I don't really think it's about that kind of change. I think it's about a personal ambition. And while personal ambition is certainly not something that I consider verboten, I think in this time and in this place, it is a potential distraction to what the larger picture is, that we need to be fighting Republicans every day, not fighting each other.
In her video endorsement, Ocasio-Cortez praised Markey for his willingness to team up with her as the Senate sponsor of the environmental package known as the Green New Deal.
When I first got to Congress and we started to discuss big, bold plans, a solution on the scale of the crisis, many members shied away. A lot of people said we can't do too much, we can't go too fast in order to pursue change for the American people. And Ed Markey was one of the few people that had the courage to stand up and take a chance on a freshman congresswoman, and take a chance on this plan.
Despite his decades in Washington and the support of lawmakers like Ocasio-Cortez and Senator Elizabeth Warren, Markey isn't quite a celebrity. That said, Kennedy may not be as famous as his own last name. He did score a chance to introduce himself personally to Americans on a big stage when he gave the Democratic rebuttal to Trump's 2018 State of the Union. His soaring message of unity may have reminded some listeners of his forefathers.
Folks, it would be easy to dismiss this past year as chaos, partisanship as politics. But it's far, far bigger than that. This administration isn't just targeting the laws that protect us. They're targeting the very idea that we are all worthy of protection. For them, dignity isn't something you're born with, but something you measure by your net worth, your celebrity, your headlines, your crowd size. Not to mention the gender of your spouse, the country of your birth, the color of your skin, the God of your prayers.
A representative for Kennedy, who delivered that speech from the city of Fall River, Massachusetts, did not immediately respond to a request for comment on the upcoming Senate battle. In a statement, the campaign manager for the senator, a milkman's son who paid his college tuition by driving an ice cream truck, said voters have a fighter in Ed Markey. The manager, John Walsh, said Markey will spend the next 14 months campaigning hard to be able to continue his work on climate change, gun reform, universal health care, and immigrant rights. Norma Schulman, another officer of the Massachusetts Democratic Party, told WBAI she's concerned about Kennedy's decision, partly because he could be of so much help on the trail in hot contests in other states.
Because Joe Kennedy is Joe Kennedy, he can be going around the country and helping us flip seats in Kentucky, in the Carolinas, in Texas, and so it is not helping us save our democracy for him to do this. And I'm not saying he doesn't have a perfect right to do whatever he wants. I just think that going after that Senate seat benefits him more than it benefits the state or the country.
Schulman says that as a grassroots campaigner, she works to help candidates both at home and away in as many ways as she can. Kennedy's leap into the Senate race changes the game for her, and she's not happy about it.
I was planning to spend all my time out on the campaign trail over the White House and I send money to all of those competitive Senate races all over the country. I'm not going to have the money to share as widely as I would like, and I'm certainly not going to have the volunteer time to spread out as thin as this will require. So I do resent the fact that I'm being asked to divide my time more thinly, but I will just do it.
It's up to Kennedy now to make the case to Massachusetts voters that he has the ideas and the energy to uphold the family legacy and move up to the Senate. Regardless of the outcome, a Kennedy challenge to Markey can be expected to be expensive and divisive among some Democrats. It may also be welcomed by Republicans. They have every reason to want more infighting across the aisle as they work to keep the Senate and the White House. And Democratic foot soldiers like Norma Schulman sound like they know it.
Who needed chaos when we need to focus on getting the White House?
Reporting from Boston, Celeste Katz.
Thank you,
WBAI,
Celeste.
New York.
Oh,
it was interesting.
Yeah, and we've missed her. She's going to be sending, being our correspondent up there now that she lives up in that area. So how great is that? We got some Northeast coverage up there, and you can listen. Maybe she'll tell everyone about WBAI, and they can listen. Maybe not via the signal, but they can listen on WBAI.org. Or you can watch our live cast of this program on Juliana's Facebook page, on WBAI's YouTube page, which we're launching in the middle of, on Twitch. If you're a Twitch person, you can watch it on ACT.tv's Twitch. We're all over. We're ubiquitous. It's 57 degrees outside, going up to 81 today in the New York City area. No rain is predicted, at least not in this area. Okay, here is a story that we found out about yesterday. This is something that I think people are going to want to call in about. So I'm going to give the number now, 212-209-2877. Write it down, 209-2877. That's our call-in line. So two of the most, as reported by the New York Times in the Daily, two of the most high-profile victims' rights attorneys have been exposed for their involvement in helping superpredator Harvey Weinstein cover up sex crimes and undermine his victims. Let me repeat. These are two of the most high-profile victims' rights attorneys. Got in bed, not literally, but figuratively, with Harvey Weinstein to help him cover up his sex crimes and undermine the victims that it's their job to protect. Gloria Allred, let's drag her name through the mud, and Lisa Bloom, the mother-daughter pair who have been widely celebrated for their advocacy for victims' crimes like Weinstein's, for their advocacy for victims, have used their experience representing women to advise Weinstein on how to silence them. Are we getting this? I'm looking for my vomit sound effect, but it's not strong enough. On the New York Times podcast, The Daily, reporters Jodi Kantor and Twohey gave an in-depth look into their reporting that led to these revelations. Here's Jodi on The Daily describing the moment she received an email from Lisa Bloom.
She says, "I'd like to speak with you briefly about a story you're working on. Do you have time for a phone call?"
Too often we are still second-class citizens.
And I got really excited because
I do women's rights cases. I see this every day.
Lisa Bloom is Gloria Allred's daughter.
And to all of the victims I've represented in high-profile cases, they stand taller afterwards. They feel very good about speaking their truth.
And she was second only to Gloria in her reputation as a fighter for women.
So if you are victimized, if you are treated differently, I hope you will stand up for your rights.
That summer, the two of them would be profiled in W Magazine together. There's this beautiful picture of them together looking strong. And the headline says, "Gloria Allred and Lisa Bloom are the defenders of women in 2017.
We will find you, come after you, and bring you to justice to the fullest extent possible. You have been warned."
So what are you thinking at this point?
I thought, this is amazing. She knows about Weinstein victims, and she's calling to help.
But Kantor soon learned from a colleague that Bloom was working with Weinstein to have her book made into a movie. In her reporting, Kantor obtained a memo written by Bloom to Weinstein detailing the ways she planned to help Weinstein evade scrutiny and accountability for his alleged rape against actor Rose McGowan. Here's more.
I feel equipped to help you against the Roses of the world because I have represented so many of them. They start out as impressive, bold women, but the more one presses for evidence, the weaknesses and lies are revealed. She doesn't seem to have much going on these days except her rapidly escalating identity as a feminist warrior, which seems to be entirely based on her online rants. For her to keep her Rose Army following, she must continue ramping up the outrageousness of her diatribes. Clearly, she must be stopped in her ridiculous, defamatory attacks on you. She's dangerous. You're right to be concerned. Options after my initial read, which I can flesh out on our next call.
Number 1, initiating friendly contact with her through me or other good intermediary. And after establishing a relationship, work out a win-win. Key question, what does she want? To direct, it appears? Number 2, counter-ops. Online campaign to push back and call her out as a pathological liar. A few well-placed articles now will go a long way if things blow up for us down the line. We can place an article re her becoming increasingly unglued so that when someone Googles her, this is what pops up and she is discredited. We have all the facts based on publicly available information. This can begin simultaneous with number 1. Number 3, cease and desist letter from me, warning her of the violation of agreement with you. Risk, she poses the letter online, generating heat and backlash. Sarah, she's CCing Sarah, the private investigator, I need to see the agreement, please. She's talking about a settlement that Harvey Weinstein paid to Rose McGowan in the 90s following the alleged rape. So she's talking about strategies to keep the payment that he made to her secret. Number 4, you and I come out publicly in a preemptive interview where you talk about evolving on women's issues, prompted by death of your mother, and maybe nasty, unfounded, hurtful rumors about you. This will be headline grabbing if you express genuine contrition for anyone who you hurt, while emphasizing it was always adult consensual behavior. You thought that was enough at the time, but now realize it's more nuanced, that a power imbalance means something, etc. You reached out to me to help understand rapidly evolving social mores around sexual misconduct because you are a good and decent person.
Are we getting this? Are we understanding exactly what happened here? The lawyers for the victims are advising Harvey Weinstein on how to undermine victims. King, you're a lawyer. You've seen this before, I'm assuming.
Well, it's funny. The first thing that hit me here was that the lawyers are telling him about headline grabbing, and for him that's an improvement because he's been grabbing everything else. So. But then on the serious side, though, lawyers can represent anybody, and the thing is, as long as they're not exposing information from their clients. So that's the legal side of it. But the moral side of it is, and we talked about it yesterday, is when people switch sides like that. And the example that I brought.
Wait. Let's finish this story, and then I do want to hear that example because I know we talked about it yesterday,
okay.
and I want to hear from the. I think these two lawyers need a public shaming.
Well,
and that's why we're doing.
Well,
this.
that's the thing. The moral question is that people switch sides, and then we're going to queue up.
Okay, if you're
money.
If you're going to switch sides, then switch. Don't pretend
cash.
You're still on the one side, and it's disgusting. As for Gloria Allred, she advised a former client of her own firm to keep silent about being assaulted by Harvey Weinstein at the same time that Allred was representing other Weinstein victims.
And I said, yeah, but I feel like back then I didn't know the things that I know now. And she goes, well, you're willing to take that risk? Like, how much are you and Charlie Vitz? Like, how much money do you have? And I was like, it was just a really weird conversation.
Megan, tell me if I have this correct. At the same time that Allred is telling Ashley not to come forward as a victim of Harvey Weinstein in the wake of your investigation, she is publicly representing women who have come forward since your investigation published with new accusations against Weinstein.
Right. And privately, she is counseling this other Weinstein accuser to stay quiet. She is telling her, if we get phone calls, we won't even acknowledge that we represented you in this case.
Damn. And just that's it. I'm going to open up the phone lines. I see that they're blinking, as is already. I hope we want to talk about this specific thing. 212-209-2877. This is just, it's the falling of idols. And I think that's really important. And King, when we talked about this yesterday, you said this isn't obviously an isolated case.
Well, and to go back to this, too, one thing that is a serious ethical no-no is somebody having a business relationship with somebody that they're legally advising. And for them to be talking about a television or movie deal at the same time that they're giving him legal advice, at the same time that they've advised other people and may know things about the other clients that can help his case, that's a big mess. That's a big mess, and somebody should be taken up on an ethical violation, it sounds like.
At the minimum.
At the minimum.
We're going to hang them in the court of public opinion.
And so back to,
we're doing that now.
And so the situation that we were talking about was back when I was working on racial profiling, they came up with a new version of racial profiling, which was consumer racial profiling. And so Macy's was following young black men mostly around the store and through the clothing departments, and it got to the point where all kinds of suits were being filed against Macy's East and Macy's West, the two giant corporations that control these companies. So we find out that they hire as their counsel to represent them the former head of the NAACP, who was now going to be their legal representative, and that was
because he knows about
it. Well, first, knows about the issue. Second, is a black face. And third, we're able to dump lots and lots of money in that situation.
Can't the store also plead like, well, we got someone from the NAACP because we really want to make sure we're doing the right thing, blah, 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 PR.
Well, I wish they would even go that far, but everybody is going to look at this and say, well, there must not be something to it because the NAACP's former lawyers representing them. So these folks are probably all just filing frivolous suits trying to get paid.
Yeah. 212-209-2877. Our phone lines are open. Caller,
Hello.
you are on the air. Your name and where you're calling from.
Hello.
Hi.
Hello.
Who's
Am I
this?
on the air?
Yeah, you're on the air. Who is this?
My name is Mitch. I'm calling from Brooklyn.
Hi, Mitch. Go ahead and make your comment.
Yeah, I want to make a comment on a different issue about vaping.
Oh, yeah. Go ahead.
I mean, they're going to ban vaping. Well, why don't they ban cigarettes, too? I mean, how are they bypassing that?
I don't know, but I'd like that.
They say vaping has caused so many deaths. Well, how many deaths have cigarettes caused?
Good point.
Well, what they're doing now is they're banning the flavors because they're attractive to children, and that's the main part of what they were dealing with. But I agree with you.
By the way, we have some breaking news. Thanks for the call. I appreciate it, Mitch. We have some breaking news. Bill de Blasio has dropped out of the presidential race. Silence. We have seen that coming, right? Didn't we not see that coming?
No idea.
Okay, so there it is. There's that news. Is that good? Maybe he'll come back here now and do more things here. I don't know. We'll have to find out. Give me more free pre-K, please. 212-209-2877. Caller, you are on the air. Your name and where you're calling from.
My name is Ali. I'm calling from Helms and Grange, which is in Manhattan.
Hi. Thanks for calling. What would you like to say?
Hi. I'm just hoping that you'll jump out as much as you can away from the Democrats and Republicans and start trying to build something that we working people need ourselves. We don't need the Democrats to lie to us, to turn their backs on us. We don't need the Republicans to slam us in the face. We don't need either one. They're both dominated by the very, very rich.
Well, that's true, but that is the party system under which we live. So now what do we do?
Change it.
I'm working on that.
Yes, many people together as we can to try to change it because it's not serving our needs.
What do you think about the Working Families Party?
It's a good beginning.
It's a good beginning.
I used to be a member of SEIU with 32BJ.
Yeah.
And they work closely with working families.
Yeah.
I think it's a good beginning. I don't think it's the culmination, but I think it's a good beginning.
No, I think we have to attack on all fronts, as they say, to really undo this mess that we're in. Yeah, but I agree. Both parties are overly beholden to corporate interests. Thanks for the call, Ali. I appreciate it. Caller, you are on the air. Your name and where you're calling from. You're live on the air. Hello, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Hi.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Who's this?
I don't know. My name is Shahid. I'm calling
Shahid.
from Bedside, Brooklyn.
Go for it.
I wanted to raise the issue that the sanctions that the U.S. have imposed on so many places for people taking land back that belong rightfully to them. And I'm looking at the history of the U.S. and all the land that the U.S. has taken from people. You see what I'm saying?
We thought it was done. Even Trump just tried to take Greenland. He's like, I think I'll buy Greenland from, Yeah, we thought it was done.
How this was an attack. This is actually an attack on people, citizens, and not politicians. And that people are dying. This is like just recently, Iran was stating that an economic attack on us of the nature that the U.S. is instituting is tantamount to war, and that they are prepared to go to war if it has to. Now, see, because they're killing people. Same thing is happening in Zimbabwe. That these sanctions is killing people there, and so. I myself have heard the call for people to come out, and I support that. And I'm going to be out on the street Saturday down at Dog Hammershaw Plaza to support, to add my body to the bodies that's going to be out there to call for an end to the sanctions against Zimbabwe.
Shahid, thank you. I have that announcement and was going to make it, so I'm glad that you brought that up. And what Shahid is talking about is the fact that there's going to be a demonstration at the UN, and it's around the Zimbabwe situation where the U.S. is putting sanctions on Zimbabwe, even though it originally had endorsed the idea of the Zimbabwe administration giving land back to the original black inhabitants from the white farmers. And then once they put the plan in place, they now started going after going after the Zimbabweans and putting the sanctions on. And that's going to be, it's Saturday, September 21st. That's tomorrow at 12 p.m. sharp, assembling at 53rd Street and Lexington Avenue. And then there's going to be a march to Dag Hammarskjöld Plaza, and it's Africa's demand, lift U.S. sanctions off Zimbabwe. So, Shahid, thanks for calling that in.
Yeah, and again, today we've got the climate strikes starting in just a couple of hours, so I'm looking forward to hearing and watching that. My understanding from being part of the media and part of the covering media is that the strikers gave priority first to mainstream media. So they are expecting mainstream media, which is great, but also frustrating. And it happens over and over again. It's like independent media follows all the little movements and covers all the little things. And then when it becomes a big thing, they give you like the last seat on the platform, not recognizing that you actually helped create the movement. But, this time they seem to have come to their senses at the very last minute and will be letting folks in. I think Move On is going to be streaming it. Act.tv is going to be streaming it. I'm not sure if WBAI is going to be streaming it. I don't think so, but I'm sure we're reporting on it. We've been reporting on it all week. We've got Esther from On the Ground on the line with us. Esther, what's happening on the show tonight?
Well, of course, D.C., just like all over the world, is caught up with the global climate strike today.
Yeah.
And so we will have really some things that happened earlier in the week in terms of the young people testifying before Congress and really highlighting a lot of the people from the U.S. who really didn't get as much, exposure as Greta Thunberg. Hope I'm saying her name right.
Yeah, people are doing things here in the U.S., not just one child from, not to disparage what she's doing,
No, absolutely. Because I remember actually some of the people were here last summer for the Youth Climate March, and they came all the way from Seattle. Young woman, Jamie Margolin, who's very powerful, really, really just hearing how young people see the world and see their future and just the anxiety they have about it. It's really very moving, and it makes you really think very differently about the kind of world that we're leaving to your very young people.
So true. 5 o'clock, right here on WBAI.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Esther. I appreciate it, and I look forward to your show On the Ground. It's going to be great. And again, of course, if you can't listen live at 5 p.m., you can go to WBAI.org. In the archives, all the shows are there. All of them. You're listening right now to Waking Up. I'm Juliana Forlano. We have a caller on the line. Let's go back to taking callers. Caller, your name and where you're calling from.
Hi, good morning, Juliana. It's Penny. How are
Penny,
you?
I've been enjoying all of our callers, but wondering where the lady's at.
Yeah.
And I'm happy that you're here.
Yeah, I'm the lady. But anyway, I have an interesting point. Since you mentioned the mention of Dag Hammarskjöld.
Yes.
There's a saying that Dag Hammarskjöld said, "Never for the sake of peace and quiet deny your experience or convictions."
It's nice that they
turn my radio down.
Named the plaza.
The other thing, too, is I have this alongside the Declaration of Independence, 1876, an attempt to abolish the United States Senate. Oh boy, my eyesight's going. The forbidding of religious leaders from occupying a government office or receiving federal funding.
Penny, you're talking about things that they've tried to do in the past?
Yeah, these are following is a limited list of some of the proposed amendments that never left the halls of Congress. Now, this one's good. 1878, an executive council of 3 to replace the office of president.
Well, that'd be fine if there was just not 3 Trumps. Seems like Trump has drained the swamp and put everybody that he found down at the bottom in positions of power, rotating positions of power. Penny, thanks for the call. I appreciate it. Thanks for all the callers. I hope you enjoy your day. It's Friday. Hope you enjoy your weekend. It's going to be a nice weekend. 85, our last summer day, thanks to that one caller. I'm still agita over the caller. Why is that important? King, what are you doing this weekend?
Let's see. I'm going to be going to that Zimbabwe march.
Yep.
That's one thing I know.
On Saturday, there's that other march. Don't forget. There's a climate strike today. There's the people's mobilization to stop the war machine, which is also today in various locations. Look at Code Pink for that. There's a Brooklyn march against gentrification, racism, and police violence tomorrow, 11 a.m. at the Barclay Center. That goes till 5:30, so it's all day. All that and more. This is a politically active city. There's no sitting it out. We appreciate you listening, and we'll see you on Monday.